What's up, everybody? Kaspi, ticker symbol KSPI, reported their earnings this week. This is currently the largest position in my portfolio. So obviously, as you can imagine, my conviction is fairly high on this one. I think the risk reward is quite good. We're going to look at the results that they just reported, and I'll let you know what I think, try to explain why I have more money here than in any other stock. And even though I'm quite bullish on the company, nothing here is advice for you to buy or sell any stock. This is just my opinion. I'm just telling you what I'm doing with my money. If you get value out of the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to download my Google Sheets template here or join my Discord, then consider following me on Patreon. Link to that will be down below. Now, let's get into it. I've talked about this company a number of times, so the quick overview is right here. The largest payments marketplace and fintech ecosystem in Kazakhstan. They're also expanding into Turkey, but Kazakhstan, this is basically their core market. You can think of this as the Amazon of Kazakhstan, the Square of Kazakhstan. It's also basically the Airbnb of Kazakhstan, the Expedia of Kazakhstan. They have a super app. It is used by essentially every adult in the country. The average user has more than 2 transactions a day on the app, close to 3. You can pay your utility bills on there. You can buy groceries, plane tickets. They have close to monopolistic status on so many things. And this is incredibly profitable. This company is a cash flow machine. With a market cap of just about $16 billion US, they're trading for about 7.5 times earnings, 7 to 8 times earnings for a dominant monopolistic company that's growing, that has incredible margins, that is able to invest in their growth and expand in Turkey while also paying out essentially roughly an 8% dividend. They just reinstated their dividend last quarter. It's about $1.80 US a share. So for 4 quarters, it's a little over $7, roughly annualized 8% dividend yield. The only reason it says on Google 2% dividend is, well, that's just for 1 quarter. But management has said that they're going to keep this dividend in place for the rest of the year. And they have no net debt. They're able to pay for this dividend simply out of the cash they generate from their operations. Now, I've been building this position for quite some time. I bought everywhere between $70 and $90 a share. My average price is a bit below 80. I think it's about 78, not exactly sure. But you see that over the past year, stock hasn't really done much, been pretty range bound. It had this jump just a month ago, and this is when it was announced that Tencent was making an investment in the company. Tencent also operates essentially a super app. In some ways, you could make the case that there's elements of Kaspi that are modeled after Tencent and WeChat. And the stake that Tencent took, if we just go over to shareholders right here, you see that most of the shares have been held by insiders. This is the chairman right here, Kim, and this is the CEO. Bearing Funds is a collection of funds that were very early investors into Kaspi before they went public. Now I imagine their Kaspi position is the majority of their funds. And ever since Kaspi listed on the NASDAQ, they have been reducing their holdings. So this has been a ton of selling pressure that has been coming from Bearing Funds. I think this has been weighing pretty heavily on the stock. I don't view it as a red flag. I think they simply want to cash out. And in fact, recently, this Tencent transaction, Tencent bought their shares directly from Bearing Funds. And also in that transaction, the CEO increased his position as well. I like that the CEO has so much ownership, definitely aligned with us common shareholders. Definitely something I like to see. Now, diving into their results, for the past year, they used to break down Kazakhstan and Turkey separately. And they used to just give growth numbers in terms of, just what their core Kazakhstan segment was doing year over year. That way, the revenue numbers weren't inflated by the fact that you now suddenly have this Turkey segment that didn't exist the year prior. Well, now they're giving more consolidated results because the acquisition of Hepsiburada, their Turkish marketplace platform, they did that in the first quarter of 2025. So on pretty close to a like-for-like comparison, revenue up 31% year over year is actually huge. A lot of that being driven by marketplace and e-commerce. Total payment volume up 14%. Also, honestly, not bad. These numbers are in constant currency. Fintech segment has been under a bit more pressure, and that's due to some of the macro conditions in Kazakhstan. Inflation has been high, although has been coming down. Inflation in Kazakhstan peaked, I think in September of last year. It was about 12 to 13% inflation. Now it's come down. The most recent reading, I think, was roughly 10%. These numbers seem high, and I think they're a concern for a lot of investors who are used to, U.S. inflation rates of 2, 3, 4%. If U.S. inflation gets to high single digits, that's considered extreme inflation. At the end of the day, we do need to have some assumption about what's going to happen between the conversion from the Kazakh tenge and also to some extent the Turkish lira to the US dollar. Because if those currencies fall off a cliff, if you have massive depreciation of the tenge against the dollar, then obviously that wouldn't be great for our investment, considering we care about the US dollar return in Kaspi stock. So we'll come back to that later. And breaking down by segment, there is a lot of stuff to like here. In e-commerce, the take rate going up, that's how much Kaspi gets out of these transactions. Also, the number of purchases per customer going up. Advertising and delivery revenue. Advertising is a newer segment for them, up massively, up 73% year over year. That's huge. Once you have a solid customer base on a marketplace platform, maybe people in the US, you can think of Amazon. Amazon has a lot of people going to their site. If you are a manufacturer, if you're a seller on Amazon, you could go out and advertise outside of Amazon, build your brand awareness, build your customer base that way. But you already have active customers with high intent to buy on Amazon.com. You might as well advertise there. So Kaspi, similar to Amazon here, marketplace platforms, advertising has just been a huge win for them. This is also very high margin. So great to see that going up. Payments also relatively solid. I mean, the take rate is down a bit, so that's compressing margins, but total payment volume up 14% year over year is pretty good. People use a Kaspi QR code on their phone to pay merchants for goods all over Kazakhstan. This is the part of their business that's maybe a bit more similar to Block or Square. Moving on to fintech, this is essentially their banking, their lending side of the business. This used to be almost entirely loans to consumers, customer financing, stuff like that. Now there's a small but significant percent of car loans in here. There's also a decent amount of loans to merchants. So loans with a bit more collateral behind them. And that's why even though the non-performing loan ratio here ticking up a little bit, that is something that would typically be a negative. You don't want your non-performing loans to go up, but it's nothing too dramatic. And it's mostly a consequence of the fact that the people they're lending to is changing slightly. Revenue up 25% is excellent in spite of the fact that total finance value down 2%. So the total amount of the loans that are going out down 2%, and yet revenue's up. How's that happening? Well, the loan duration is increasing. The portfolio size and the duration is up, and that's driving the revenue here. So all in all, combine everything together, revenue up 31% year over year. That is massive. And you might say, okay, but net income's down. So what's going on? And the answer is mostly Turkey. They're still paying for a bunch of CapEx, a bunch of investment into expanding in Turkey. And the Turkish segment, even though it's grown very well on the top line, it is a negative on the bottom line right now. It is a money-losing segment. They're guiding for it to be adjusted EBITDA neutral, which basically means if you didn't have to worry about interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, then, it would be a break even for them. Well, you do have to worry about some of those things. So it is net income wise a negative. So Turkey is a drag on the bottom line, probably will be for a couple years, but management has talked about on the call that they think the opportunity in Turkey is significant. They're not looking to maximize profitability here right now. They want customers to have a good experience. They want to grow the platform. They want to be excellent. E-commerce, a bit more competitive in Turkey than in Kazakhstan. Overall, I'd say this was a solid quarter. Pretty pleased. I'm happy to see the top line do so well. This is still an incredibly profitable company. And that's in spite of the fact that they're not really even prioritizing profitability, especially in Turkey right now. I would have liked to hear a more definitive update on their purchase of Rabobank, which is a bank in Turkey that they're buying. They're effectively trying to execute the entire Kaspi playbook that they've done in Kazakhstan over in Turkey. And to do that, they need a banking license. They need to be a bank. So they decided they're just going to buy a bank. They've said they expect that deal to close by the end of the summer, but right now it's in the hands of regulators, so nothing else for them to report. But they're able to make this purchase, fund all this CapEx in Turkey out of their own earnings, and still pay an 8% annualized dividend yield simply because they just make that much money. They're quite a bit far ahead of their competition in their home market. And again, they are trading for less than 8 times earnings, close to 7 to 8 times earnings for this dominant growing company. I think the market is just sleeping on this one because it's in Kazakhstan. It feels like the middle of nowhere to people in the West. There's not a lot of people talking about this stock. There's not a lot of people interested in buying it. And in fact, frankly, there's been quite a bit of selling pressure from bearing funds. They own close to a quarter of the shares. That's actually almost as much as all non-insiders combined. So when you have that much selling pressure there, it weighs on the price. Frankly, I don't mind. I'm patient. I'm happy to accumulate my shares, which is what I've done here. Now, moving down to our assumptions for the future to see, what we could expect for a return on our investment in Kaspi stock today. For my base bear and bull case here, I pretty much have the same assumptions that I had last time we looked at Kaspi. And to take a look, base case, I'm looking at 5% revenue growth every year for 5 years. And when I'm talking about 5% growth, I'm talking about US dollars. Everything in my sheet here, I've converted into US dollars. When Kaspi reports, they're reporting in local currency, the Kazakh tenge. So you might say, okay, 31% growth in tenge year over year, but if the tenge is depreciating against the dollar, what does that mean for dollar growth? And I think this is what worries people who are a bit more skeptical on this stock. You might look at the inflation rate in Kazakhstan, which is more volatile than it is in the US. I mean, it was as low as 4 or 5% here about 6-7 years ago. Then it peaked post-COVID up to 20. I mean, to be fair, around this time, most even developed countries in the world had very high inflation. US inflation hit double digits. Since then, it came back down and it was down to about 8%. Then it spiked up again, close to 13 back in September, now down to 10%. Whichever way you slice it, obviously much higher than it is in the West, especially in the US. So say 10-ish% inflation, and in the US, maybe you call it 3% inflation. So you think, okay, if there's 10% inflation in Kazakhstan and 3% inflation in the US, doesn't that imply that the tenge depreciated about 7% against the US dollar last year? That does seem pretty logical, but if you look at what actually happened with the tenge against the dollar is up significantly over the past year against the dollar, about 10%, up 10% on the dollar. So what's going on here? The fact of the matter is, you can't just look at the difference in reported inflation rates and take that as a reasonable proxy for the change in exchange rate. There's a couple reasons why that's a pretty bad measurement. The clearest one is that these inflation rates are calculated very differently using completely separate baskets of goods. Something like 40% of the basket that's used to calculate the tenge inflation rate is food, whereas for the US dollar, I think that's about 10 to 15%. If, on the other hand, you look at, the price of an ounce of gold in tenge versus dollars, or the price of, silver, oil, something that's going to be consistent around the world, then you'll see that the tenge has actually appreciated against the dollar. There's a bunch of factors that affect exchange rate. For example, commodity prices. Kazakhstan is a big producer of commodities, not just oil, but also uranium, a bunch of metals. When Kazakhstan sells oil to some other country, that transaction, it's being done in dollars. They're then likely using those dollars and buying up tenge. That's increasing the value of the tenge against the dollar. So in a rising commodity environment, that's pretty supportive of the tenge. Also, interest rates, when you have high interest rates, that supports demand for the local currency. So I just don't think the tenge is collapsing against the dollar. If you look over the past 5 years, tenge is down about 10% against the dollar, so roughly 2% annualized. My base case assumption that I'm using in this sheet assumes roughly 5% annual depreciation of the tenge against the dollar. So I am assuming that the tenge is going to go down relative to the US dollar. I just don't think it's dropping off a cliff. I think Kaspi's reported top line growth going to slow down. And if you think that that's going to slow down to, roughly 10% every year for 5 years, and then you also factor in 5% depreciation of the tenge, you get to a US dollar growth rate of 5% here. I'm also assuming their margins pull back a little bit. And this is as you have that higher mix coming from Turkey, which is lower margin. It's still pretty strong operating margins. It's just not, exactly the insane numbers they were seeing before. And then I give them a 10 times multiple, which I think is nothing demanding. Certainly for how strong the business is, you could argue for a higher multiple, but this is still a company that's operating in Kazakhstan and Turkey. They're never going to trade for anything close to a multiple that you would see in the US. So just giving them a 10 times multiple, I think the assumptions here are reasonably conservative. You get a 21% annualized return on this stock. That's an increase of 150% over 5 years. My bear case assumes no growth at all over 5 years, and this is really the scenario where I'm wrong about the tenge. It completely collapses against the dollar. And yeah, you might have nominal growth in local currency, but US dollar growth, pretty much not there. Operating margins pull back even more, and I'm just giving them a 7 times multiple. And even in this scenario, you have 7% annualized return on this stock. Really not all that bad. Meanwhile, the bull case, on the other hand, I feel like you could even be more aggressive here. I'm only assuming 9% annualized growth on the top line for 5 years. Given the numbers they're putting out now, you could be more optimistic. Margins kind of kept similar to where they are now, and I'm giving them a 15 times multiple, which I think is fair in a bull case, and you're looking at 37% annualized growth. That's pretty close to a 5x on your money over 5 years. So all in all, I think risk reward is excellent. I like the quarter. I think they reported solid numbers. I think the company's on track. This is my highest conviction bet. As far as what I'm doing with my money today, probably nothing. I've built my position. It's a large holding for me. I see absolutely no reason to sell, but I'm probably not adding more. Obviously, not advice for you to buy or sell this stock, just telling you what I'm doing. So I hope you got value out of the video. If you did, subscribe to the channel. If you want to grab my Google Sheets template or join my Discord, then link to my Patreon will be down below. And if you agree or disagree with anything I said in this video, leave that down in a comment, and I hope to see you all in another one.